Chapter 1. The woods remember blood. The forest had no mercy for the dying. Alara pressed her palm against the gash in her side, feeling warmth seep between her fingers despite the cold air biting at her skin. Her breath came in shallow gasps, clouding white in the moonlight that filtered through skeletal branches overhead. She shouldn't have run. She should have stayed in the village, endured the whispers, the accusations, the hands that had shoved her toward the mayor's door with ropes and judgment, but they'd called her a witch. And witches burned. So she'd run into the thornwood, where even the hunters refused to go after dark. Better the wolves than the pyre, she'd thought. Now, bleeding onto moss-darkened earth, she wasn't sure she'd chosen wisely. Her legs gave out near a grove of ancient oaks, their roots twisted like arthritic fingers breaking through soil. She collapsed against rough bark, her vision swimming. The wound wasn't deep enough to kill her quickly, but it was deep enough. She'd bled for an hour, maybe more. Her dress, the same one she'd worn to her mother's funeral 3 months ago, clung to her body, soaked dark. The village believed she'd cursed the magistrate's son. In truth, the boy had simply been sick, and she'd tried to help with the herbs her mother taught her. When he died anyway, they needed someone to blame. A woman alone, with knowledge of roots and remedies, made an easy target. Alara closed her eyes, listening to the night sounds. Owls, wind through bare branches, the distant trickle of a stream. She thought of her mother's grave, unmarked because they'd refused her holy ground. Thought of the cottage they'd burned 2 days ago, taking everything she'd ever known. Maybe it was better this way. Quick, quiet, alone. Then she heard footsteps, not the chaotic scramble of an animal, not the cautious tread of a hunter. These steps were measured, deliberate, moving through the undergrowth without disturbing it. Coming closer, Alara's hand found a broken branch, though she could barely lift it. Stay back, she rasped, her voice thin as spider silk. The footsteps stopped. Silence pressed in, thick and waiting. Then a voice cut through the darkness, low, ancient, edged with something that might have been curiosity or contempt. You're bleeding on my territory. Alara's eyes snapped open. A man stood 10 paces away, barely visible in the shadows between trees. Tall, still, watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle despite the cold numbing her limbs. I didn't, she coughed, tasting copper. I didn't know these woods belonged to anyone. They don't. He moved closer, and moonlight caught his features. Sharp cheekbones, pale skin that seemed to drink in the light rather than reflect it. Eyes dark as wet stone. But I've claimed them nonetheless. For 3 centuries, no human has bled here without my permission. 3 centuries. The words should have been madness. Instead, they settled over her like truth. Alara had heard stories, the ones the old women whispered when men weren't listening. Stories of the nightborn houses that ruled the cities beyond the mountains. Immortal lords, who moved through courts of shadow and blood, bound by laws older than kingdoms. But those were distant horrors, political dangers, that didn't touch villages like hers, except this one stood before her now, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Are you going to kill me? She asked. Fear should have choked her, but exhaustion had burned it away, leaving only a strange, detached calm. His head tilted slightly. You're already dying. Why would I waste the effort? Then why are you here? I smelled your blood. He stepped closer, still, close enough that she could see his clothes dark, well-tailored, utterly inappropriate for the wilderness. No cloak, no visible weapon, as if the forest itself wouldn't dare touch him. It's unusual. Unusual? How? Alara's grip on the branch tightened, though her arm trembled with the effort. Sweet, frightened, but underneath he paused, nostrils flaring slightly. Angry. You don't want to die. You want revenge. The truth of it struck her like a fist. Yes, somewhere beneath the pain and resignation, fury burned. At the village. At the magistrate. At a world that punished women for trying to heal instead of harm. So what? She whispered. I'll be dead before dawn anyway. The vampire, because that's what he was, what he had to be, crouched before her with fluid grace. This close, she could see details that shouldn't exist on a living face. Skin too smooth, too pale. No rise and fall of breath. Eyes that reflected moonlight like a cat's. The wound is survivable, he said, if treated soon. By who? You? Alara laughed, bitter and wet. What do you want in return? My blood? My soul? Neither. His gaze held hers, unblinking. I want to know why they tried to kill you. Does it matter? Yes. The word carried weight. She didn't understand. She searched his face for deception, for the predatory hunger the stories promised, but found only interest, clinical, cold, as if she were a specimen he intended to study. They called me a witch, she said finally. Said I cursed a boy. I didn't. I tried to save him with medicine, and he died anyway. So they came for me with fire and rope. The vampire's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air around him. A tension, coiled and dangerous. And you ran here, to the one place humans fear more than execution. I chose wolves over fire. Alar's vision blurred at the edges. Seems I got something worse, or better. He stood in one smooth motion. Can you walk? Why? Because if you stay here, you'll die. If you come with me, you might survive long enough to become interesting. It wasn't a promise. Wasn't even reassurance. But it was a choice. And she'd thought all her choices had ended the moment the magistrate pointed his finger. Alara looked at the vampire's extended hand, pale, elegant, steady as carved marble. Then she took it. His grip was iron cold. But it didn't waver as he pulled her to her feet. The world tilted, darkness eating at her vision, but his other hand caught her waist, holding her upright with effortless strength. What's your name? She managed. Cassius Thorne, Lord of the Hollow House. His voice was close to her ear now, steady as a heartbeat. She knew he didn't have. And you've just become my problem. Then the forest swallowed them both. And Alara's last conscious thought was that she'd traded one death for something far more uncertain and infinitely more dangerous. Chapter 2. The house of Hollow Bonicello awoke to silence so complete it felt like drowning. And no birdsong, no wind, no distant voices or crackling hearth fires, the small sounds that had filled every morning of her life until now. Just stillness, thick and absolute, pressing against her ears like wool. She opened her eyes to darkness. Panic flared hot in her chest. She tried to sit up, but pain lanced through her side, sharp enough to steal her breath. Her hand flew to the wound and found clean bandages, expertly wrapped, the fabric soft against her skin. Someone had undressed her, cleaned her, tended her wounds while she lay unconscious. You're awake. Alara's head whipped toward the voice, and immediately regretted it as the room spun. Through the vertigo, she made out a figure seated in a chair perhaps 6 feet away. Cassius, perfectly still, hands resting on the arms of what looked like an ornate throne salvaged from some forgotten palace. Where am I? Her voice came out hoarse, raw. My home, such as it is. He gestured vaguely at the darkness surrounding them. We're beneath Thornwood, in chambers that predate your village by 500 years. No one comes here. No one knows these passages exist except me. As her eyes adjusted, details emerged from shadow. Stone walls, ancient and seamless. Arched ceilings lost in gloom above. Furniture that looked valuable but neglected, chairs with faded velvet, a table with books stacked in careful disorder, candelabras holding half-burnt candles that weren't currently lit, and no windows. No natural light anywhere. How long was I unconscious? Alara asked, keeping her voice steady despite the fear creeping up her spine. 18 hours. You lost more blood than I initially calculated. Cassius stood, and she noticed he wore different clothes now, simpler, dark linen that somehow made him look more dangerous rather than less. I gave you water while you slept. Your body did the rest. You watched me sleep for 18 hours. I don't sleep. He moved to a sideboard, poured something from a crystal decanter into a glass. Not as you understand it. Dawn forces a stillness, but night belongs to me entirely. He brought her the glass water, clear and cold. She wanted to refuse it on principle, to demand answers first, but thirst won. She drank deeply, feeling the liquid soothe her parched throat. Why did you bring me here? Alara set the empty glass aside, meeting his gaze. You said I was your problem. Now, what does that mean? Cassius returned to his chair, settling into it with the kind of grace that spoke of centuries of practice. It means that by bleeding on my territory and accepting my help, you've fallen under the protection of Hollow House, ancient law, inviolable, even by other vampire lords. I didn't know ignorance doesn't matter. The blood knows. His eyes caught what little light existed, reflecting it back like dark mirrors. Your wound was made by iron, deliberate. They meant to mark you, not just kill you. Do you know what that means? Alara's hand drifted to the bandages. Iron. The magistrate's men had carried iron-tipped staves, the kind used for witch marking, she whispered. They wanted proof. Evidence to show the other villages, to justify a burning. Yes. Cassius's expression remained neutral, but something cold entered his voice. Humans and their paranoia. You'd think after all these centuries, you'd have learned to stop eating your own. We're not all. Alara stopped, anger and exhaustion warring in her chest. I didn't ask for this. Any of this. No, you asked for death in the woods. I offered you survival instead. He leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees. But survival has conditions, of course it does. Bitterness crept into her tone. Let me guess. You want my blood, or my service, or some ancient vampire bargain that binds my soul for eternity. I want, Cassius said slowly, to understand why someone with your blood would waste it on a village that tried to murder you. My blood? What's so special about it? Sings. The words were quiet but absolute. Most human blood is functional, sustenance. Yours carries something else. Something I haven't tasted in 200 years. Potential. Magic perhaps, though not the kind your magistrate feared. Alara stared at him. I'm not a witch. I don't have magic. Your mother did. The statement landed like a physical blow. How do you know about my mother? I've lived in Thornwood for 3 centuries. I notice patterns. Your mother knew herbs, yes, but she also knew how to walk the border between growing things and dying things. How to coax life from impossible soil. How to turn fever dreams into healing sleep. Cassius tilted his head. She never bled on my territory, so I never approached her. But I watched, and when she died, I wondered if her gift had passed to her daughter. It didn't. Alara's throat tightened. I can't do what she did. I tried. The magistrate's son, I used her recipes exactly, but he died anyway. I failed, or he was already beyond saving, and you were simply convenient to blame. The possibility settled over her like a heavy cloak. She'd wondered, in the dark hours before they came for her, wondered if the boy's illness had been too far progressed, if any healer, magical or mundane, could have stopped it. Why do you care? She asked quietly. What difference does it make to you whether I have potential or not? Cassius was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. Because Hollow House is dying, I am the last of my line. No allies, no court, no blood-bonded kin. The other houses, Crimson Thorn, Silver Vesper, Obsidian Crown, they circle like wolves, waiting for me to weaken enough to claim my territory. So I'm what? A weapon? A bargaining chip? No, he met her gaze with unsettling directness. You're a choice I shouldn't have made. By ancient law, bringing you here protects you. But it also marks you as mine. And that puts a target on your back the moment the other houses learn you exist. Alara's pulse quickened. Then send me away. I'll leave. I won't tell anyone. You can't. Cassius stood, began pacing, the first restless movement she'd seen from him. The blood mark is already set. If you leave my territory now, any vampire lord with the skill to read it will know you belong to Hollow House. They'll take you, question you, use you against me. Or worse, they'll turn you, claim you for themselves, and I'll have violated the oldest law of the night courts. What law? A lord protects what he claims. Always, without exception. He stopped pacing, turned to face her. I claimed you when I brought you here, whether I intended to or not. The implications crashed over her like cold water. She wasn't a guest, wasn't a patient recovering from wounds. She was property, a responsibility he couldn't shed. How long? Her voice barely rose above a whisper. How long does this claim last? Until you die, or until you're formally released through a blood rite that requires the presence of at least 3 other house lords. His expression was unreadable. Neither option is currently viable. Alara closed her eyes, feeling tears threaten. She'd escaped the pyre only to trap herself in a different cage. One made of ancient laws and immortal politics she didn't understand. I know what you're thinking, Cassius said quietly. That you've traded one prison for another. Perhaps you have, but there's a difference. She opened her eyes. What difference? I don't want to own you, Alara of Thornwood. I want, he hesitated, and for the first time, she saw something uncertain in his ancient face. I want to understand why saving you felt necessary. Why? Your blood called to something I thought I'd buried centuries ago. The confession hung between them, raw and unexpected. What did you bury? Alara asked. Hope. The word was barely audible. The belief that something could still surprise me. That the endless nights might hold something other than survival and solitude. Silence stretched. Alara looked at the vampire lord, ancient, powerful, alone, and saw something she recognized. The same hollow exhaustion she'd felt, pressing against the oak tree, bleeding and abandoned. I don't know how to give you hope, she said finally. I barely have any myself. Then perhaps, Cassius replied, we're well matched in our brokenness. It wasn't comfort, wasn't reassurance, but it was honest, and honesty felt like solid ground after days of drowning. Alara took a shaky breath. What happens now? Now you heal. Learn the rules that keep you alive in this world. And we determine whether your potential is real or whether I've doomed us both for nothing. And if the other houses come, then we fight. His eyes glinted in the darkness. And you learn what it means to be claimed by Hollow House. Chapter 3. Shadows learned to trust. 3 days passed in the hollow beneath Thornwood, and Alara learned that vampires had unsettling habits. Cassius didn't eat, didn't sleep in any recognizable way. When dawn came, though she couldn't see it through the stone, he simply grew still, settling into his chair like a statue carved from pale marble. His chest didn't rise. His eyes didn't close. He just stopped. For hours, he remained frozen while she sat in the oppressive silence, listening to her own heartbeat and wondering if this was what madness felt like. Then, as evening fell somewhere above, he'd blink, inhale, resume existence as if no time had passed. It terrified her more than she wanted to admit. You're staring again, Cassius said, without looking up from the book in his lap. Ancient text, the pages yellow and brittle. He turned them with careful precision. Alara shifted on the chaise where she'd been resting, wincing as her wound pulled. It was healing faster than natural, something about the underground air, he'd said, though she suspected he'd done more than simply bandage her. I'm trying to understand how you exist. That makes two of us. He finally glanced up, dark eyes unreadable. After 300 years, you'd think I'd have answers. I don't. Do you miss it? The question escaped before she could stop it. Being human? Cassius closed the book, set it aside. I barely remember it. I was turned at 26 during a war I can't even name anymore. The house that made me is dust. The country I fought for doesn't exist. Everyone I knew is centuries dead. He paused. So no, I don't miss something I can barely recall. That sounds lonely. It is. No hesitation. No pretense. Immortality is isolation. The world changes. People die. Even other vampires eventually grow tired and walk into the sun. His gaze drifted to the shadows pooling in the corners. I've simply been too stubborn to follow. Alara absorbed this, studying him. In the candlelight, he looked young, barely older than she was. But his eyes carried weight no young man's should. Centuries of watching, waiting, surviving. Why Hollow House? She asked. Why stay here alone, when there are other vampires in the cities, courts and politics, and because I'm not welcome there? Cassius stood, moved to the sideboard, where he kept her water and his own sustenance bottles of dark liquid she tried not to think about too carefully. Hollow House was once part of the night courts. We had power, territory, blood-bonded alliances. Then my sire violated the feeding laws. What did he do? Took without consent, repeatedly, from humans under another house's protection. His jaw tightened. The night courts executed him, dissolved our alliances, stripped our holdings. I was allowed to live only because I proved I wasn't complicit, but I was exiled from court politics. This territory is all that remains, and now the other houses want even this. They want me gone. Dead or broken, it doesn't matter which. He poured water into her glass, brought it to her. A lordless territory can be claimed by anyone. As long as I exist, they have to acknowledge my right to it. Barely, grudgingly, but they do. Alara accepted the water, their fingers brushing briefly. His skin was cold, but not unpleasantly so, like river stones in winter. That's why bringing me here was dangerous. You gave them a vulnerability. Yes, he didn't move away. But you were dying, and I was. Tired of watching humans destroy each other over fear and ignorance, something shifted in her chest. Not trust, not yet, but the beginning of understanding. He'd saved her, not because she was useful, but because he was lonely enough that even a dying stranger felt like company worth keeping. Teach me, Alara said quietly. Cassius raised an eyebrow. Teach you what? Everything. The rules, the politics, how to survive in this world. She met his gaze steadily. You said I need to learn, so teach me. Make me less of a liability. For a long moment, he simply looked at her. Then slowly, he nodded. Very well. Lesson 1. Vampire houses are bound by blood oaths and territorial law. There are 4 major houses left in this region: Crimson Thorn, Silver Vesper, Obsidian Crown, and what remains of Hollow House. Each controls territory, resources, and human populations through a combination of fear and arrangement. Arrangement? Some humans serve willingly. Blood servants, they're called. They offer sustenance in exchange for protection, wealth, or immortality. Eventually, his tone was clinical. Others are simply prey, though the feeding laws require consent, or at least unawareness. Taking by force from a protected human means execution. Alara's stomach turned. And unprotected humans? Fair game, technically. Though most modern vampires prefer willing donors. Hunting is inefficient and draws attention. He began pacing, settling into the rhythm of a lecture. The night courts meet quarterly to settle disputes, negotiate territory, and enforce ancient law. I'm not invited anymore, but I still have to follow their edicts or face destruction. What kind of edicts? No creating new vampires without court approval. No killing other lords or their blood-bonded kin. No revealing our existence to humans en masse. And most importantly, a lord protects what he claims. Always. The last rule again. The one that had trapped her here. How does claiming work exactly? Alara asked. Cassius stopped pacing. Blood contact on claimed territory creates a mark. Faint, but readable to those with the skill. When I gave you water from my well, tended your wounds in my chambers, that sealed it. You carry Hollow House's scent now. Can it be broken? Only through formal release or death. His expression darkened. And formal release requires 3 lords to witness the blood rite. Given that the other houses would rather see me destroyed, they won't help free you. It would only benefit me. Alara processed this, frustration building. So I'm stuck here, indefinitely, unless you want to risk being taken by Crimson Thorn or Silver Vesper. They're the most aggressive. They'd use you to draw me out, force me into a position where I'd have to either fight or surrender my territory to save you. Would you? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Would you fight for me? Cassius met her gaze, and something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Yes, which is exactly why they'll try it. The admission hung between them, heavy with implications. He barely knew her. She barely knew him. Yet the blood mark bound them into a dance of protection and vulnerability neither had chosen. Then we're both trapped, Alara said softly. Yes. He moved closer, crouching beside the chaise so they were eye level. But perhaps there's something to be said for sharing a cage. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Fear, revulsion, the usual human reactions to discovering what I am. His gaze searched her face. Instead you ask questions, learn, adapt. You're either remarkably brave or foolish, probably both. Alara managed a weak smile. I've already been marked for burning. A vampire lord is hardly the strangest turn my life has taken. Something that might have been amusement crossed his features. Fair enough, a thought occurred to her. You said my blood sings, that it carries potential. What did you mean? Cassius hesitated. Some humans carry latent abilities, gifts that surface under the right circumstances. Your mother had an affinity for growing things, for coaxing life from death. You might carry something similar, but I told you, I couldn't save because you haven't learned to listen yet. He stood, offered his hand. Come, if you're strong enough to argue, you're strong enough to begin. Alara looked at his extended hand, pale and steady in the candlelight. This was trust, she realized. Small, fragile, but real. He was offering to teach her, to share knowledge that might make her dangerous or valuable, or both. She took his hand and let him pull her to her feet. Where are we going? She asked, as he led her toward a darkened archway she hadn't noticed before. Deeper, his grip was firm but careful. To the roots of Thornwood, where the old magic still remembers what it was before humans built their villages and forgot how to listen. And what will I learn there? Cassius glanced back, candlelight catching the sharp planes of his face. Whether your blood song is strong enough to keep us both alive when the other houses come hunting. Chapter 4. The roots remembereth passage descended steeply, carved stone, giving way to natural rock formations that predated human hands. Cassius moved with perfect confidence through the darkness, one hand steadying Alara as she navigated the uneven ground. Her wound ached with each step, but she bit back complaints. Weakness felt dangerous here, in these depths where the air itself seemed alive. How far down are we going? She asked, her voice echoing strangely. To the Heartwood. The oldest living thing in Thornwood. Cassius's tone carried something almost like reverence. It's been growing for 2,000 years, its roots spreading through the entire forest. Your mother used to come here. Alara stopped. What? My mother never. She came at night, when the village slept. I watched her sometimes, curious. She'd sit among the roots, place her hands on the bark, and listen. He glanced back. She never saw me. I made certain of that. But I recognized her gift. Why didn't you approach her? Because she had something to live for. A daughter. A purpose. I don't interfere with humans who found reasons to stay alive. His eyes gleamed in the dark. You, bleeding and abandoned, had nothing left to lose. That made you mine to save. The reasoning was cold, practical, vampire logic. Yet beneath it, Alara heard something else. Loneliness. A creature so isolated, he only reached out to those already falling into darkness. They emerged into a vast chamber. And Alara's breath caught. The heartwood dominated the space, a tree so massive its trunk seemed to hold up the earth itself. Roots thick as her body spread across the chamber floor, disappearing into stone. The bark was silver white, almost luminous, pulsing with faint light that had nothing to do with fire or candles. It's alive, she whispered. More alive than either of us, Cassius agreed. The heartwood exists between worlds. Its roots touch the living forest above and the deep earth below. Those with the gift can hear it speak. Alara moved forward, drawn by something she couldn't name. The air here felt different, thick with potential, humming with energy that raised the fine hairs on her arms. She approached the nearest root, hesitated, then placed her palm against the bark. Nothing. And a voice. No vision, just smooth wood under her hand. Disappointment crashed through her. I don't hear anything. You're trying too hard. Cassius moved beside her, his presence oddly steadying. Your mother's gift wasn't forceful. It was receptive. She didn't command nature, she listened until nature trusted her enough to respond. I don't know how to do that. Close your eyes. Alara obeyed, feeling foolish. The bark was cool beneath her palm, solid and indifferent. Breathe, Cassius instructed, his voice low and close. Stop thinking about what you want to hear. Just feel. She tried, drew slow breaths, let her racing thoughts quiet. The chamber's silence pressed in, broken only by the distant drip of water somewhere in the darkness, then so faint she almost missed it. A pulse, not sound exactly, more like rhythm. A slow, steady beat that matched no human heart, ancient, patient, endless. I feel something, she breathed. Good, don't chase it, let it come to you. The pulse grew stronger, and with it came awareness, not words but impressions. The heartwood knew her, recognized something in her blood that resonated with its own deep magic. It remembered her mother's touch, grieved her loss, welcomed the daughter who carried echoes of that same gift. Alara's eyes flew open. It knows me, of course it does. Cassius watched her with an intensity that made her skin warm. Your mother fed it with her presence for years, strengthened it with her gift. You carry her blood. The heartwood remembers, but I can't do what she did. I don't know how yet. He stepped closer. The gift is there, dormant perhaps, untrained, but real. I can taste it in your blood, and the heartwood can sense it in your touch. Hope flickered in Alara's chest, fragile and dangerous. Can you teach me to use it? No, I'm undead, nature's opposite. But the heartwood can teach you, if you're willing to listen. He paused. It won't be easy. The gift requires sacrifice, understanding. Your mother spent years learning to hear what the forest offered. I don't have years. Alara's hand pressed harder against the bark. You said the other houses will come, that I'm a target. I need to be more than a liability. You need to survive first. Cassius's jaw tightened. Pushing too hard, too fast, will break you. I've seen humans burn themselves out trying to force magic they weren't ready to wield. Then what do you suggest? Small steps. Come here daily. Listen. Let the heartwood acclimate to you as it did your mother. Build trust. His gaze softened fractionally. Magic isn't dominance, Alara. It's relationship. You can't command it into existence. The words settled over her like a blanket. She'd been approaching this wrong, treating it like a skill to master rather than a bond to nurture. Her mother had understood that, had spent quiet nights in communion with something greater than herself. Will you bring me here? She asked. Every night? If you wish, I do. She turned to face him fully, her hand still resting on the heartwood's root. You're right. I have nothing left to lose. But maybe I can build something new. Here, with this? Cassius studied her for a long moment. You're not what I expected, he repeated, softer this time. You've said that before, because it keeps being true. He reached out, almost touched her face, then let his hand fall. Most humans would beg me to release them. Send them away. Consequences be damned. You're asking to go deeper. Learn more. Why? Elara met his ancient gaze steadily. Because going back isn't an option. My village wants me dead. The world I knew is gone. You offered me survival, I'm choosing to make it worth surviving. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, perhaps. Or recognition of a kindred stubbornness. Very well. He stepped back, giving her space. We'll return each night. You'll learn to listen. And when your gift awakens, if it awakens, we'll determine how to use it to keep the other houses at bay. And if it doesn't awaken, then we'll find another way. His tone carried absolute conviction. I didn't save you to watch you be destroyed by politics. You didn't choose. Hollow House protects its own, even if I'm the last one standing. The words were a vow. Weighted with centuries of loneliness and the desperate need to finally have someone worth protecting, Elara understood. Saw it clearly now. He'd saved her not just because she was dying, but because he was. Not physically, but in every way that mattered. And maybe, just maybe, they could save each other. Thank you, she said quietly, for this, for not giving up on me. Cassius's expression softened into something almost vulnerable. Thank you for not giving up on yourself. It's been a long time since I've had a reason to hope. They stood in the heartwood's glow, two broken creatures finding unexpected ground between survival and surrender. Then Cassius held out his hand. Come, you need rest. And dawn approaches. We'll return tomorrow night. Elara took his hand, let him guide her back through the darkness toward the chambers above. Behind them, the heartwood pulsed with ancient light, patient and waiting, and deep in her chest, beneath fear and uncertainty, something small began to wake. Chapter 5. When Shadow's hunt attack came. On the seventh night, Elara woke to Cassius's hand over her mouth, his body tense as carved stone beside her chaise. His eyes blazed with warning in the darkness. Stay silent, stay still. She nodded once, and he removed his hand. They're here, he breathed, barely audible. Silver Vesper. 3 of them, maybe 4. Searching the upper passages, fear spiked through her chest. How did they find us? Someone talked. A hunter? A traveler? It doesn't matter. He moved to the chamber's entrance, listening to sounds she couldn't hear. They know a human shelters with me. They'll want proof. What do we do? Cassius turned, his expression carved from ice and fury. You hide. There's a passage behind the 3rd bookshelf. It leads deeper, to caverns they won't know exist. Go, now. What about you? I'll deal with them. His voice carried centuries of cold violence. I've survived worse than Silver Vesper's hunting parties. Elara stood, despite her protesting wound, moved toward him instead of the bookshelf. You said a lord protects what he claims. That works both ways. I won't hide while you fight alone. You can't help me against vampires, maybe not. But I can watch your back. She grabbed the iron poker from beside the cold hearth, the only weapon in reach. You said my blood marks me as yours. Let them see what that means. Cassius stared at her, something fierce and unexpected blazing in his eyes. Then he nodded sharply. Stay behind me. Do exactly as I say. And if I tell you to run, I'll run. The lie came easily. She had no intention of abandoning him. He heard the lie, she could tell. But footsteps echoed in the passage beyond, and there was no more time for argument. Lord Cassius of Hollow House, the voice that rang through the stone was male, cultured, dripping with false courtesy. We know you harbor a human marked with iron. Surrender her, and we'll leave peacefully. Cassius stepped into the archway, blocking the entrance with his body. I harbor no one, Lord Marcus. Only a guest recovering from injuries sustained outside my territory. A guest? Marcus emerged from shadow, tall, elegant, dressed in silver and white that seemed to glow against the darkness. 2 others flanked him, younger but no less dangerous. How fascinating. The laws are quite clear about guests versus claimed humans. She's neither claimed nor subject to Silver Vesper's interest. Cassius's tone could have frozen blood. Leave, now. I'm afraid we can't do that. Marcus smiled, revealing teeth to white and to sharp. The night courts have questions about your activities. Bringing a witch-marked human into vampire territory violates several protocols. We're here to investigate. She's not a witch. And even if she were, That's human superstition, not vampire law. Nevertheless, Marcus's gaze shifted past Cassius, found Alara in the shadows. There she is, fascinating. She doesn't look terrified. Most humans cower when they see us. Alara stepped forward despite Cassius's warning growl, meeting Marcus's gaze. I've already been condemned to burn by my own people. Vampires are hardly more frightening. Marcus laughed, delighted. Oh, she has spirit. No wonder you claimed her, Cassius. Though I have to wonder, is it her blood you want, or simply the company? 3 centuries alone must weigh heavily. My reasons are none of your concern. They are when you violate territorial agreements. Marcus's smile vanished. You were allowed to keep Thornwood on the condition you maintain no court, no blood servants, no power base. This human represents all 3. She represents nothing but my choice to show mercy. Mercy? One of Marcus's companions, a woman with auburn hair and cruel eyes, stepped forward. You don't do mercy, Cassius. You do isolation, survival. This is something else. Cassius's hands flexed at his sides. State your terms or leave, Marcus. I tire of games. Simple terms. Release her to us. We'll verify she carries no threat to the night courts, then return her to human society. You continue your exile undisturbed. No, the word was absolute. Then you confirm she's claimed? Marcus's eyes gleamed with triumph. Because that changes everything. A lord with a claimed human has responsibilities, resources, potential heirs if he chooses to turn her. The courts won't allow you to rebuild Hollow House through the back door. I'm not rebuilding anything, then releasing her should be no problem. Marcus took a step forward. Unless you've grown attached? How? Unexpected. The tension crackled like lightning. Alara could feel Cassius's rage, barely leashed, and knew they were seconds from violence. Wait, she said, her voice cutting through the charged air. I'll go with them. No, Cassius didn't turn. Alara, if I'm the problem, remove the problem. She met Marcus's gaze steadily. I'll let you verify I'm no threat. Then you let me go free, and Lord Cassius maintains his territory. Everyone wins. Marcus smiled slowly. How reasonable. You see, Cassius? Your human has more sense than you do. She's not going anywhere with you. Cassius's voice dropped to something barely human. I know what Silver Vesper does with unclaimed humans. I won't allow it. You won't allow? The auburn-haired vampire hissed. You have no authority to forbid us anything. Exile. I have the authority of my territory, and the blood mark she carries. Cassius moved with sudden, terrible speed, grabbing Alara's wrist, pulling her behind him. Touch her, and you violate the oldest law. I'll have grounds to demand court arbitration. You'd never survive the politics, try me. His eyes blazed crimson. I've spent 3 centuries with nothing to lose. You think I fear judgment from courts that already destroyed me? The chamber fell silent. Marcus studied Cassius, calculation clear on his beautiful, ageless face. This isn't over, he said finally. The courts will hear of this. Your protection of a witch-marked human won't go unanswered. Let them hear. Let them judge. Cassius's grip on Alara's wrist was iron. I claim her under Hollow House law. If they want her, they go through me. Marcus's smile turned cold. So be it, Lord Cassius. But know this, you've just declared war on every house that wants you gone. And there are many of us. He gestured to his companions, and they melted back into shadow like mist. Their footsteps echoed away up the passage, fading into silence. Cassius didn't move until the sounds were completely gone. Then he released Alara's wrist, stepped back, and sagged against the wall, the first sign of weakness she'd ever seen from him. You shouldn't have offered to go, he said, voice rough. I was trying to help, they would have killed you. He looked at her, eyes still burning with residual rage. Or worse, turned you without consent to force my hand, made you a weapon against me. Alara's stomach turned. I didn't know, now you do. He pushed off the wall, began pacing. This is what I tried to explain. The politics aren't theoretical. They're vicious. And you just became the center of them, because you claimed me publicly, because I refused to let them take you. He stopped, faced her. I should have let you hide, should have negotiated. Instead he broke off, frustration clear. Instead you protected me, Alara finished quietly. Like you said, a lord must. It wasn't strategy. The admission was raw. It was instinct. When he suggested taking you, I just reacted. Something warm bloomed in Alara's chest, despite the fear. Thank you. Don't thank me. I've made us both targets. Cassius ran a hand through his dark hair. They'll report to the courts. Silver Vesper, Crimson Thorn, Obsidian Crown, they'll all unite against Hollow House now. Then we prepare. Alara straightened despite her shaking hands. You teach me to fight. I learn my gift. We make them regret coming here. Cassius stared at her. Then, impossibly, he laughed, sharp and bitter but genuine. You're either the bravest human I've ever met or the most foolish, both. We established this already. She managed a weak smile. What now? Now we fortify, plan, and hope your gift awakens before they return with an army. He held out his hand. After a moment, Alara took it, and in the darkness of Hollow House, two unlikely allies prepared for war. Chapter 6. Blood and Revelation. The next 3 nights blurred together in a haze of preparation and revelation. Cassius became a different creature, focused, strategic, tireless. He showed Alara the defensive positions throughout the underground chambers, the escape routes carved into stone, the places where sunlight would filter through at dawn to create barriers no vampire could cross if they breached the outer passages. Fall back here, he instructed, pointing to a narrow corridor with a crack in the ceiling. Dawnlight reaches this point. You'd be safe until dusk, and you'd burn. Alara traced the thin shaft of potential sunlight with her eyes. I won't hide in the one place you can't follow. You will if it keeps you alive. No, she met his gaze steadily. We survive together or not at all. Those are my terms. Cassius's expression softened fractionally. You're stubborn. So are you. We're well matched. She paused. You said I need to understand vampire weaknesses. Teach me properly. How do I kill one if I have to? He was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. Fire or sunlight are most effective. A wooden stake through the heart will paralyze but not kill. It requires decapitation afterward. Severe blood loss weakens us significantly. And iron, like what marked you, causes pain, but not death. What about silver? The stories always say superstition. Silver does nothing. He moved to a weapons cache she hadn't noticed before, hidden behind loose stones. But this might help. He pulled out a short sword, the blade dark and strange. Obsidian forged with ash from the heartwood. My sire made it centuries ago. It won't kill a vampire outright, but it wounds in ways that take time to heal. Alara accepted the weapon, feeling its weight. Heavier than she expected, perfectly balanced. You're giving me a weapon that could hurt you. Yes, no hesitation. Because I trust you more than I fear you. And because if Silver Vesper returns, you'll need every advantage. The trust implicit in the gesture stole her breath. She set the sword down carefully. I don't know how to use it. Then I'll teach you. He drew his own blade longer, elegant, clearly ancient. Basic positions first. How to hold it without cutting yourself. How to move. They trained in the largest chamber. Cassius, patient and exacting, as he corrected her stance, her grip, her footwork. He moved with liquid grace, centuries of skill evident in every gesture. She stumbled, sweated, felt her healing wound protest the exertion. Again, he said, when she faltered. You're dropping your guard. I'm exhausted. Exhaustion is when you'll need this most. But he lowered his blade, studied her flushed face. Enough for tonight. You'll tear your stitches if we continue. Alara sagged against the wall, breathing hard. How long did it take you to learn this? Decades. You have days, perhaps weeks. He sheathed his blade. But you're a faster study than most humans. Your mother's gift might be helping heightened awareness. Better reflexes. I still can't hear the heartwood clearly. Give it time. He offered her water, which she accepted gratefully. Magic doesn't respond to desperation. Only patience. She drank deeply, then asked the question that had been burning in her mind. Why did you really save me, Cassius? The truth this time. He was silent so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because when I found you dying, you didn't beg, didn't plead for mercy or promise servitude. You just asked if I was going to kill you. And when I said no, you closed your eyes like you'd already accepted whatever came next. He paused. It reminded me of myself. 300 years ago, when my sire found me bleeding on a battlefield, I'd stopped fighting, stopped caring. He gave me a choice: die or become something else. I chose to become, and you wanted to give me the same choice. Yes, he met her gaze. Though I didn't intend to claim you. That was impulse, weakness. I convinced myself it was just curiosity about your blood, your potential. But the truth is simpler and more pathetic. What truth? I was lonely. The confession was raw. 3 centuries of isolation, and suddenly there was someone who looked at me without fear or worship. Just tired acceptance. It felt honest, real. I wanted to keep that. Keep you. Alara's heart clenched. She understood loneliness, had felt its weight crushing her in the days after her mother's death. I'm glad you did. Are you? I've dragged you into a war you didn't choose. You dragged me away from a pyre I didn't deserve. She set down the water, stepped closer to him. Everything I had was already gone. At least here, with you, I have purpose, direction, someone who sees me as more than a convenient scapegoat. Cassius reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers brushed her jaw cold but gentle. You're more than I expected, more than I deserve. Don't. She caught his wrist, held his hand against her face. Don't diminish this. Whatever this is dangerous. But he didn't pull away. If the other houses discover I've developed attachment, they'll use it against us. Let them try. Alara's pulse quickened. I'm not afraid of them. Not anymore. You should be. Maybe. But I'm more afraid of losing this. Of going back to being alone. She swallowed hard. You said you wanted to understand why saving me felt necessary. I think I understand now. We recognize each other. 2 people the world tried to destroy, refusing to break. His thumb traced her cheekbone and she saw something crack in his ancient composure. I haven't felt anything in so long. Decades, maybe centuries. Just cold existence. Survival. Then you appeared, bleeding and furious and stubborn. And suddenly you remembered what it felt like to care. She finished his thought, seeing the truth written in his eyes. Yes. The word was barely audible. They stood frozen in that moment, breathing the same air. The space between them, charged with possibility and danger. Alara knew she should step back, maintain the careful distance they'd established. But she was so tired of distance, so tired of walls. Cassius, she whispered, when you feed, does it have to hurt? His eyes darkened. No, not if the human is willing. Not if he stopped. Why are you asking? Because you've been starving yourself. She'd noticed over the past days, the slight tremor in his hands sometimes. The way his eyes tracked the pulse in her throat before he'd force his gaze away. You haven't fed properly since bringing me here. I have reserves. You're weakening yourself before a fight. She tilted her head slightly, exposing her neck. Take what you need. From me. Alara. No. I can't. You can. She held his gaze. I trust you. And if we're going to survive what's coming, you need to be at full strength. It's not that simple. Feeding creates bonds, especially from a claimed human. It would deepen the mark, make you more mine in ways neither of us I know. Her voice was steady. I'm choosing this anyway. Cassius stared at her, warring with himself. Then slowly, he leaned down until his lips brushed her ear. If I start, and you want me to stop, say my name. Say it, and I'll stop immediately. I trust you, she repeated, his arms wrapped around her, gentle but secure. His breath ghosted over her throat, cold and steady. This will feel strange, not painful, but intense. Then his teeth pierced her skin. Chapter 7. The blood bond. The sensation wasn't pain. Alara had braced for agony, for the tearing violation the village stories promised. Instead, there was a sharp sting, brief as a needle prick followed by something else entirely. Warmth spread from the puncture wounds, rolling through her veins like honey and fire. Her knees weakened, but Cassius held her steady, one arm supporting her back, the other cradling her head with unexpected tenderness. She felt him drink, felt her pulse synchronize with the pull of his mouth against her throat. The intimacy of it stunned her, more profound than any touch she'd ever experienced. It wasn't just blood he was taking. It was life essence, the core of what made her herself flowing into him, and somehow, impossibly, she felt him in return. His loneliness crashed over her like a wave, 3 centuries of it, deep and cold and endless. The weight of watching everyone he'd ever known crumble to dust. The shame of his sire's crimes, the exile that had hollowed him out until nothing remained but survival instinct and bitter endurance. But underneath, something else stirred. Relief, wonder, the desperate, fragile hope that maybe, finally, he'd found someone who wouldn't leave, wouldn't die, wouldn't abandon him to the dark. I won't, she thought, though she couldn't speak. I'm here. I'm staying. She felt his response, wordless but clear. Gratitude, protectiveness, and beneath it all, desire. Not just for blood, but for connection. For her. Cassius pulled back suddenly, breathing hard despite not needing air. His eyes blazed crimson, and his hand trembled as he pressed cloth against the wounds on her neck. Enough. Any more would weaken you too much. Alara swayed, dizzy and flushed. The room spun gently, but she felt no fear, only warmth and a strange sense of rightness, as if something that had been broken inside her had finally clicked into place. That was, she couldn't find words. I know. He guided her to sit, staying close. The bond, it works both ways. During feeding, you felt what I felt, your loneliness. Her voice was soft. Cassius, I had no idea it was so. Don't. He looked away. I didn't mean for you to see that, but I did. She caught his face, turned it back toward her. His skin was warmer now, flushed with her blood, more alive than she'd ever seen him. And you felt me too, didn't you? He nodded slowly. Your grief, your rage at the village, but also determination, strength. You're not as fragile as you believe. Neither are you. She held his gaze. You think you're just survival and cold strategy, but that's not true. You saved me because you still have hope buried so deep you forgot it existed. Hope is dangerous for immortals, maybe, but it's all we have. She touched the cloth pressed to her neck. How do you feel? Stronger? Yes. The admission seemed reluctant. Your blood is extraordinary, rich with potential. The gift your mother carried runs deep in you. Will it help? In the fight? It will help me. Whether it helps you depends on what you can unlock. He stood, paced to the weapons cache. The bond is deeper now. Other vampires will sense it if they get close enough. They'll know you're not just claimed but connected. Is that bad? It makes you more valuable, more dangerous to me. He turned. If they take you now, they could use the bond to track me, manipulate me, force me into disadvantageous positions. Alara absorbed this. Then we make sure they don't take me. Easier said than done. Silver Vesper won't come alone next time. They'll bring allies, possibly even petition the night courts for sanction to remove me entirely. On what grounds? Harboring a human with magical potential, building a power base, violating the terms of my exile. His jaw tightened. They only need one charge to stick. The courts want any excuse to dissolve Hollow House completely. Why do they hate you so much? Alara stood, steadier now. You've stayed isolated, followed their rules. What threat do you pose? Cassius was silent for a long moment. Then, because I refuse to disappear. Most exiled lords either walk into the sun or seek destruction in battle. They end themselves rather than endure centuries of isolation. I didn't. I stayed, survived, and that offends them, because it proves they haven't broken you. Exactly. He met her eyes. Every night I continue to exist is a reminder that their judgment failed. That Hollow House, diminished as it is, endures. They want me gone because I'm a living insult to their authority. Understanding bloomed. And now I've given them ammunition. A human bond. Proof you're trying to rebuild. You've given me reason to fight back. He crossed to her, stopped close enough that she could feel the new warmth radiating from him. For 3 centuries, I had nothing worth protecting. No allies. No purpose beyond spite and stubbornness. You changed that. I didn't mean to, I know. But you did. His hand rose, hesitated, then cupped her cheek. The bond shows me your heart, Alara. You're terrified, exhausted, still healing from wounds, both physical and otherwise. But you refuse to break, refuse to run. Why? She leaned into his touch. Because for the first time since my mother died, I don't feel alone. You see me, not as a witch, or a burden, or something to be pitied. Just me, and I see you the same way. What do you see? Someone who's been strong for so long he forgot how to be soft. Who pushes everyone away because it's safer than risking loss. She covered his hand with hers. But you didn't push me away. You let me in. And now we're bound in ways neither of us planned. This complicates everything. I know. She smiled faintly. But I'm not sorry. Cassius stared at her, something raw and vulnerable in his ancient eyes. Then slowly, he leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers. Not a kiss. Something more intimate, a gesture of trust, of shared burden. Neither am I, he whispered. They stood like that for a long moment, breathing together, the bond humming between them like a living thing. Alara felt his presence in her mind, now not intrusive, but there. A constant awareness of his emotions, his location, the thread connecting them. Then Cassius stiffened, pulled back sharply. What's wrong? Alara asked. The wards. His eyes blazed. Someone's triggered the outer wards. Multiple someones. Silver Vesper? Worse. He grabbed his sword, tossed her the obsidian blade. All of them. Crimson Thorn, Obsidian Crown, Silver Vesper together. And they've brought fire. Alara's blood turned cold. How many? At least a dozen. He moved toward the chamber entrance. They're not here to negotiate. This is an execution. Then we fight. Alara knew. She gripped the sword, felt its weight settle into her hands with new certainty. The bond pulsed with his fear for her, his desperate need to protect, but also his pride, his recognition that she wouldn't hide. We fight together. That's what the bond means. Partnership. Cassius looked at her, really looked, then nodded once, sharp and decisive. Stay close. Follow my lead. And whatever happens, I know. She moved beside him. We survive together, or not at all. His hand found hers, squeezed once. Then they moved toward the passage, where firelight already flickered against ancient stone, and the sound of approaching footsteps echoed like thunder. The siege had begun. Chapter 8. Fire and Ash. First vampire through the passage died on Cassius's blade before it could speak. Alara watched, frozen, as the creature, a young male with silver insignia, crumbled to ash, its head severed in one fluid motion. Cassius didn't pause, didn't hesitate. He moved like death itself, all cold precision and centuries of violence unleashed. Fall back to the Heartwood chamber, he commanded, parrying a strike from the second attacker. They can't use fire there, the roots are too valuable. Go. Alara ran, gripping her obsidian blade, the bond, screaming with Cassius's focused rage. She felt him engage 3 opponents at once, felt the sting as a blade grazed his shoulder. His pain rippled through her, and she stumbled. Don't stop. His thought pressed into her mind through the bond. Get to safety. She wanted to turn back, to fight beside him. But more vampires poured into the outer chambers, and flames licked along the walls, torches designed to smoke them out, to make the underground uninhabitable. The Heartwood chamber loomed ahead. Alara burst through the archway and immediately felt the difference. The air was cooler here, thick with ancient power. The massive tree pulsed with silver light, and its roots seemed to shift, responding to the danger above. Help us, Alara thought desperately, pressing her palm to the nearest root. Please, we're trying to survive. The Heartwood's response was immediate, a surge of awareness that nearly knocked her off her feet. It didn't speak in words, but in impressions, recognition, acceptance, and beneath it, fury that invaders dared bring fire into these sacred depths. Power flowed up through Alara's hand, wild, untamed, nothing like the gentle pulse she'd felt before. The gift her mother carried roared to life inside her, answering the Heartwood's call. Her vision shifted, and suddenly she could see the roots spreading through the entire underground, a vast network of living wood that touched every chamber, every passage. She could feel the vampires moving through those spaces, could sense Cassius fighting desperately in the outer hall, wounded but holding, could feel the flames consuming centuries-old tapestries and furniture, and she understood with sudden clarity what the Heartwood offered. Yes, she thought, show me how. The Heartwood surged again, and knowledge flooded her mind. Not her mother's gentle, growing magic, but something older, wilder. The forest's defensive wrath. Alara opened her eyes, raised her free hand, and commanded the roots to rise. In the outer chamber, Cassius fought like a cornered wolf. He'd taken down 4 vampires, but more kept coming. Marcus of Silver Vesper led them, flanked by lords from Crimson Thorn and Obsidian Crown. They coordinated their attacks, forcing him back step by step, toward the Heartwood chamber. Surrender. Cassius, Marcus called over the clash of blades. You can't win this. Release the human, accept dissolution of Hollow House, and we'll grant you exile elsewhere. I'll grant you Ash, Cassius snarled, driving his blade through a Crimson Thorn warrior's chest. Hollow House doesn't surrender. Then Hollow House dies tonight. Marcus gestured, and 2 more vampires rushed forward with torches. We'll smoke you out like the vermin you've become. Cassius felt Alara through the bond safe in the Heartwood chamber, but terrified for him. Her emotions crashed over him in waves. Determination, fear, and something else. Something powerful awakening. Then the floor erupted. Roots burst through stone with the sound of shattering earth. Thick as a man's torso, they whipped through the chamber like living serpents. One caught a Crimson Thorn vampire mid-strike, wrapped around his waist, and slammed him into the wall with bone-crushing force. Another root seized a torchbearer, yanked the fire from his hands, and extinguished it against wet earth. The attacking vampires scattered, shot clear on their immortal faces, and through the chaos, Cassius felt Alar's presence blazing like a beacon. She was doing this, commanding the heartwood, wielding the gift she'd thought she didn't possess. Fall back, her voice whispered through the bond. I'll hold them. Cassius didn't hesitate. He turned and ran for the heartwood chamber, roots parting before him like waves. Behind him, vampires screamed as the forest defended its own. He burst into the chamber and stopped. Alara stood at the heartwood's base, both hands pressed to its silver bark. Her eyes blazed green, not human, not vampire, but something else entirely. Ancient magic pulls through her, and roots continued to erupt from the floor, the walls, everywhere at once. Alara, he started. Get behind me, she commanded. Her voice layered with the heartwood's ageless power. They're coming. Marcus appeared in the archway, his elegant composure shattered. Blood streaked his silver clothes, and fury twisted his beautiful features. What is this? What have you done? What I had to. Alara's voice was steady despite the power thrumming through her. The heartwood protects its own, and I am sworn to it now, just as my mother was. Impossible. The old magic is dead, clearly not. Cassius moved beside Alara, sword raised. You brought fire to sacred ground, Marcus. The forest remembers, and it doesn't forgive. More vampires crowded behind Marcus, wary now. The roots had stopped their aggressive movements but remained poised, ready to strike. The heartwood pulsed with warning, and even these ancient creatures could feel its displeasure. This changes nothing, Marcus said, though his voice lacked conviction. The night courts won't allow. The night courts have no authority over the old magic. Alara interrupted. Your vampire laws don't apply here. This is older, deeper, and you've violated it. She's bluffing, the auburn-haired vampire hissed. She's human. She can't maintain this. A root shot out, stopped inches from the woman's throat. The movement was so fast, so precise, that every vampire froze. Test that theory if you like, Alara said softly. The heartwood is patient, but it's not merciful. Silence fell, broken only by the crackle of dying flames in the outer chambers. Cassius felt the standoff through the bond. 13 vampires against one human channeling ancient power and one exile lord who'd finally found something worth dying for. Marcus studied them both, calculation clear in his eyes. Then he smiled coldly. Impressive. But power like that burns through humans quickly. How long can you maintain it? Hours? Minutes? Alara's grip on the heartwood tightened. Cassius felt the truth through the bond she was already straining. The magic was vast, powerful, but wielding it drained her faster than she'd anticipated. Long enough, she said. We'll see. Marcus stepped back, gestured to his allies. Withdraw, for now. But this isn't over, Cassius. The courts will hear of this. A human wielding old magic under your protection violates every treaty we've established. Then let them come. Cassius's voice was ice. And let them face what you face tonight. Marcus's smile didn't waver. Oh, they will. And next time, we'll come prepared. Enjoy your small victory, exile. It's the last you'll have. The vampires melted back into the passages, their footsteps echoing away into darkness. Cassius waited until the sounds completely faded before lowering his blade. They're gone, he confirmed. Alara sagged immediately. The green glow faded from her eyes, and she would have collapsed if Cassius hadn't caught her. The roots slowly withdrew, sinking back into stone and earth. I've got you, he murmured, lowering them both to the ground. You were magnificent. I was terrified, she whispered. Her whole body trembled. The power, it was so much. I could barely control it. But you did. You saved us both. He held her close, felt her heartbeat racing against his chest. How do you feel? Exhausted, empty, like I just ran for days without stopping. She looked up at him, her eyes human again, but exhausted. Did I really do that? Command the heartwood? You did. Your mother's gift awakened under pressure, just as it needed to. He brushed damp hair from her forehead. You're far stronger than you know. Alara managed a weak smile. We held them off. For now. Marcus was right about one thing: this isn't over. They'll return, and they'll be ready for the heartwood's defenses next time. Then we prepare better too. She closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling at her. Together, Cassius agreed softly. He held her as she drifted toward sleep, the bond between them humming with shared relief and lingering fear. They'd survived the first assault, but the true war was just beginning. Chapter 9. The quiet before dawn. Alara woke to silence and Cassius's steady gaze. He sat beside where she lay on the chaise, close enough to touch, but careful not to wake her. Dawn's stillness held him motionless, but his eyes tracked her breathing, watching over her with an intensity that made her chest tighten. How long was I asleep? Her voice came out rough. 16 hours. You needed it. He offered water, which she accepted gratefully. The Heartwood's magic depleted you more than either of us anticipated. Alara sat up slowly, testing her body. The wound in her side had nearly healed, accelerated by the magic, perhaps. But exhaustion still clung to her bones like cobwebs. Did they come back? No, they're regrouping, planning. Cassius's expression darkened. I've been monitoring the outer passages. They've posted sentries at the forest edge. We're under siege, just a slower one, waiting for me to weaken. Yes, he didn't soften the truth. Your display of power surprised them, but Marcus is right. You can't maintain that level of magic indefinitely. Eventually, you'll exhaust yourself, and they'll strike. Alara set down the water, studied him. He looked tired, despite the blood she'd given him days ago. Worn in ways that had nothing to do with physical exhaustion. What aren't you telling me? Cassius was silent for a moment. Then, the night courts have issued a formal summons. I'm to appear in 3 nights to answer charges of violating exile terms, harboring dangerous magic, and threatening the stability of vampire territorial law. That's insane. We defended ourselves doesn't matter. They've decided Hollow House has become a problem. The summons is a formality. They've already determined the outcome. His jaw tightened. If I don't appear, they'll declare me rogue and send hunters. If I do appear, they'll execute me and claim my territory. Fear spiked through her. Then don't go. We'll fight them here against the full night courts. Alara, that's 50 vampire lords, each with their own warriors and blood-bonded servants. Even with the Heartwood's power, we'd be overwhelmed in minutes. So what? You just accept death? Anger flared hot in her chest. After everything, you're just going to surrender? I'm trying to keep you alive. He stood, began pacing. If I'm gone, the claim on you dissolves. You'd be free to leave, to return to the human world. I don't have a human world anymore. Alara surged to her feet despite her protesting body. They tried to burn me, remember? And even if they hadn't, I'm bound to the Heartwood now. I feel it. Cassius? The magic is part of me. I can't just walk away from that. Then what do you suggest? He turned to face her, frustration and fear warring in his eyes. Because I'm out of strategies. I've spent 3 days trying to find a way through this that doesn't end with one or both of us dead, and I can't see it. Alara closed the distance between them, caught his hands. Then we stopped trying to fight their game. We changed the rules. How? The Heartwood. She squeezed his fingers. You said the old magic predates vampire law, that the courts have no authority over it. What if we use that? Cassius frowned. I don't follow. You're being summoned as a vampire lord? But what if you weren't alone? What if you appeared with a representative of the old magic, someone they can't simply dismiss or execute without violating older laws than their own? Understanding dawned in his eyes. You want to come with me to the night courts, as your ally, your equal. Alara's mind raced, pieces falling into place. The Heartwood chose me, accepted me. That makes me something more than just a claimed human. I'm a guardian of the old magic, bound by oaths that predate their territorial disputes. It's risky. If they don't accept the argument, then we're no worse off than if you go alone. She held his gaze. But if they do accept it, we force them to negotiate rather than execute. We prove Hollow House isn't just you anymore. It's us. A new kind of alliance between vampire and old magic. Cassius stared at her, hope and fear battling across his features. You'd risk facing 50 vampire lords in their own court? I'd risk anything to keep you alive. The truth escaped before she could stop it, raw and absolute. His hands tightened on hers. Alara, I know what this is between us. She swallowed hard. The bond, the blood. Maybe it's just magic talking, some artificial connection. Neither of us chose. But it doesn't feel artificial. It feels real. And I won't lose it without fighting. It is real. His voice dropped to something barely audible. I've existed for 3 centuries, and nothing has ever felt as real as you. The bond didn't create what I feel, it only revealed it. Her breath caught. What do you feel? Everything I thought I'd forgotten how to feel. Fear, hope, desire. He released one of her hands, traced her jaw with careful fingers. I look at you and remember what it meant to be alive. To have someone worth protecting. Worth changing for. I don't want you to change, I have to. The exile lord who saved you that night would have let you sleep and gone to the courts alone, accepting execution to keep you safe. But that's not who I am anymore. His thumb brushed her lower lip. You've made me selfish. Made me want to survive, to fight, to build something that lasts. That's more dangerous than any magic. Alara turned her face into his palm. Then be dangerous with me. We'll face the courts together. Force them to see that Hollow House isn't dying, it's evolving. If this fails, it won't. She spoke with a certainty she barely felt. The Heartwood chose me for a reason. The old magic wants to survive, to have guardians again. We offer the Night Courts something they've lost connection to the power that made them possible in the first place. Cassius studied her for a long moment. Then slowly, he pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her. You're either brilliant or insane, both probably. She pressed her face to his chest, felt the stillness where a heartbeat should be. Will you teach me how to speak to the courts? The protocols and politics? We have 3 nights. I'll teach you everything I know. He pressed his lips to her hair. But Alara, you need to understand, if this goes wrong, I won't be able to protect you. The courts don't tolerate defiance. They'll make an example of us both. I know. She looked up at him. But I'd rather die fighting beside you than live safely without you. Is that foolish? Completely. His expression softened. But I feel the same. They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other, while the impossible weight of what they planned settled over them. 3 nights to prepare, to train, to become something neither vampire nor human alone could defeat. We should begin, Cassius said finally, reluctantly releasing her. You need to learn vampire court customs, ancient law, how to hold your ground against lords who've spent centuries perfecting intimidation, and you need to feed again. Alara touched his face, felt the coolness returning to his skin. You're weakening. The fight depleted you. I'll manage. No, she tilted her head, exposing her throat. We're partners now, equals. That means taking care of each other. So feed. Build your strength. We'll need it. Cassius's eyes darkened with hunger and something deeper. The bond will strengthen further. Good. She met his gaze steadily. Let them see we're not just lord and claimed human. We're something new. Something they'll have to reckon with. He searched her face one last time. Then, with infinite care, he drew her close and lowered his mouth to her throat, and in the Heartwood chamber below, the ancient tree pulsed with approval. Chapter 10. The Night Court's reckoning. The Court of Endless Night occupied a cathedral older than any human city Alara had ever heard of. Stone columns rose into darkness so absolute it felt solid. Candles floated in the air without holders, casting shadows that moved with predatory intent. And everywhere seated on ancient thrones, standing in alcoves, watching from balconies, vampires. Dozens of them. Centuries-old lords and ladies dressed in silk and velvet, their eyes tracking Alara and Cassius with cold curiosity. Alara kept her spine straight, her hand steady on the obsidian blade at her hip. She wore the only formal garment they could find in Hollow House's forgotten storage, a deep green gown that had belonged to some long-dead lady of Cassius's line. It fit him perfectly, but looked deliberate, especially paired with the crown of woven heartwood roots she'd crafted herself. Cassius walked beside her in formal black, every inch the exiled lord returning to face judgment. But through the bond, she felt his tension, his fear, and beneath it, fierce pride that she'd insisted on standing with him. Lord Cassius Thorne of Hollow House, a voice boomed through the cathedral. You stand accused of violating the terms of your exile. How do you answer? The speaker sat on the highest throne, an ancient vampire with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice. High Lord Marius, ruler of the Night Courts, the vampire who'd sentenced Cassius to exile 3 centuries ago. I answer that the charges are false, Cassius replied, his voice carrying through the vast space. I have maintained my exile, claimed no court, raised no army. I have violated nothing, yet you harbor a human wielding old magic. Marcus of Silver Vesper stepped forward from the crowd. Magic that attacked lords of 3 houses when we came to investigate. You came with fire and blades, Alara said, her voice clear despite her racing heart. You attacked first. We defended ourselves as the old laws permit. Every eye turned to her. The weight of their attention was crushing. Centuries of power and violence focused on one mortal woman who dared speak in their court. The human speaks out of turn. Lady Crimson of Crimson Thorn hissed. She should kneel before her betters. I kneel to no one who brings fire to sacred ground. Alara met the vampire's gaze steadily. I am Alara, daughter of the Heartwood's last guardian, sworn to the old magic that existed before your courts, before your houses, before vampire law itself. And I stand here as Lord Cassius's ally, not his servant. Murmurs rippled through the gathered vampires. High Lord Marius leaned forward, studying her with unsettling intensity. Bold words for a mortal, he said. But the old magic has been dormant for centuries. What proof do you offer that you speak true? Alara drew a slow breath. She'd prepared for this, practiced it during their 3 nights of training. Now she reached deep, calling to the Heartwood's power sleeping in her blood. Green light blazed in her eyes. Roots erupted from the cathedral floor, not attacking, but growing, spreading, flowering with silver blooms that filled the air with ancient perfume. The magic swelled through the space, and every vampire present felt it. Older than them, deeper, the power that had made their immortality possible in the first place. Then Alara released it, and the roots withdrew, leaving only the flowers scattered across stone. Silence. High Lord Marius's expression remained neutral, but something shifted in his ancient eyes. Impressive. But this doesn't absolve Lord Cassius. By harboring you, he's built a power base. He harbored nothing, Alara interrupted. I chose to stay, and the Heartwood chose me, independent of any vampire claim. We formed our alliance after, because it benefited us both. That's not violation of exile, that's survival. Semantics, Marcus sneered. She's blood bonded to him. The mark is clear. That makes her his, no matter how she dresses it up. The blood bond was necessary for my protection, Cassius said. Ancient law permits a lord to claim endangered humans on his territory. I followed that law to the letter, then release her. Lady Obsidian of Obsidian Crown spoke for the first time, her voice like silk over steel. Prove she's not your power base by severing the bond. Here, now, before the court. Alara felt Cassius's shock through the bond. They hadn't anticipated this. Releasing her would require 3 lords to witness something impossible before, but here, surrounded by dozens of lords suddenly viable. Cassius started. I refuse, Alara said firmly. The bond is my choice as much as his. You can't compel me to sever it against my will. That would violate older laws than your territorial disputes, laws about consent and free will that even you must honor. High Lord Marius tilted his head. Clever. But what do you gain from remaining bonded to an exile with no power, no allies, nothing to offer you? Partnership. Alara moved closer to Cassius, their shoulders touching. He offers me protection, knowledge, a place in a world that would otherwise destroy me. I offer him connection to the old magic, to power that predates your politics. We're stronger together than apart. That's not a crime, it's evolution. Evolution. The High Lord tasted the word. An interesting frame. But evolution requires the old to die so the new can flourish. Perhaps Hollow House should end, so something new can begin. Or perhaps, a new voice said. Hollow House represents exactly the evolution we need. A figure emerged from the shadows, female. Ancient, dressed in robes that seemed woven from moonlight. Alara recognized her from Cassius's descriptions. Lady Nightshade, oldest of the Night Court, rumored to have been present when the first vampire laws were written. Explain yourself. Nightshade, High Lord Marius said, though his tone carried respect. The old magic is waking, Lady Nightshade said, moving to stand beside the scattered silver flowers. We've felt it for months, stirrings in the deep places, power returning to sites long abandoned. If the Heartwood has chosen a guardian again, that's not coincidence. The world is changing. Perhaps our laws should change with it. You suggest we allow this alliance? Marcus demanded. Set precedent that any exile can rebuild through human magic? I suggest we recognize reality. Lady Nightshade's gaze swept the court. Cassius Thorn has survived 3 centuries of exile through stubbornness and spite. Now he's found something better: purpose. Partnership with the very magic our kind once relied upon before we grew arrogant. Punishing that serves only our pride, not our survival. This is madness, Lady Crimson hissed. If we permit enough. High Lord Marius raised a hand, and silence fell. His ancient eyes moved between Cassius and Alara, weighing, judging. Finally, he spoke. The court will vote. All in favor of dissolving Hollow House and executing Lord Cassius for violation of exile, indicate now. Hands rose. Marcus, Lady Crimson, perhaps 15 others, all in favor of recognizing the alliance between Hollow House and the old magic as legitimate, binding, and exempt from exile restrictions. More hands rose. Lady Nightshade. Several others Alara didn't recognize. She counted frantically through the bond, feeling Cassius do the same. The numbers were close. Too close. High Lord Marius counted slowly. Then, the vote is tied. As High Lord, the deciding voice falls to me. Ilara's heart stopped. Everything, their lives, their future, the fragile hope they'd built rested on one ancient vampire's whim. Marius stood, descended from his throne, and approached them. He studied Alara with eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. You love him, he said quietly. Not a question. Yes, Alara answered without hesitation. And you? Marius turned to Cassius. You love her. Cassius met his gaze steadily. Yes. Then you've already suffered enough. Marius smiled faintly. 3 centuries of isolation, and you find love with a human who will die in mere decades. That's crueler than any execution I could order. He stepped back, raised his voice to the court. I vote to recognize the alliance. Hollow House stands, bound to the old magic, subject to review in 50 years' time. Relief crashed through Alara so powerfully her knees weakened. Cassius caught her, his own emotions flooding the bond. Shock, gratitude, disbelief. This is a mistake, Marcus snarled. Perhaps, Marius agreed. But it's mine to make. The session is closed. Lord Cassius, Lady Alara, you may return to your territory. Use your time wisely. The court began to disperse, vampires vanishing into shadows. Cassius and Alara stood frozen, afraid to move, afraid to believe. Lady Nightshade paused beside them. You've been given a gift. Don't waste it. We won't, Alara promised. The ancient vampire smiled. Good. The old magic needs guardians who understand what's worth protecting. You two might actually succeed where others failed. Then she too was gone. And they were alone in the vast cathedral. We survived, Cassius whispered. We did more than survive. Alara turned in his arms. We won. We changed their minds. 50 years. That's all we have before they review again. Then we make those 50 years count. She cupped his face. We rebuild Hollow House properly. Create the alliance we promised. Prove that partnership between vampire and old magic isn't just survival, it's the future. Cassius stared at her, then laughed, genuine and stunned. You're extraordinary. So are you. She kissed him, brief and fierce. Now take me home. We have work to do. Epilogue. Where Hollow meets Heart. 6 months later, Thornwood had changed. Alara walked through the forest at dusk, her bare feet, finding paths only she could see. The Heartwood's roots guided her, a constant whisper beneath the earth, showing her where the old magic flowed strongest. Silver flowers bloomed in her wake, marking territory that belonged to neither human nor vampire alone, but to something new. Behind her, Cassius followed at a respectful distance, watching her work with quiet fascination. You're getting stronger, he observed, as she knelt beside a withered oak, placing her hands on its bark. Green light pulsed, and the tree straightened. New leaves unfurling despite the approaching winter. The Heartwood teaches me something new every night. Alara stood, brushing dirt from her dress, simpler now than the gown she'd worn to court, practical for the work of restoration. This grove was dying, poisoned by runoff from the village. It'll take months to fully heal, but the roots are stabilizing. The village notices. Cassius moved beside her. I've heard rumors, whispers about the witch who lives in Thornwood now, who makes dead things grow again. Let them whisper. Alara's jaw tightened. They lost the right to my care when they tried to burn me. I heal the forest, not them. Even though some are suffering, the harvest failed this year. Children are going hungry. She turned to him sharply. You want me to help them? After everything? I want you to choose freely. His expression was gentle. Your mother healed anyone who asked, regardless of what they'd done. But you're not your mother. You don't owe them forgiveness. Alara was silent for a long moment, watching silver flowers sway in the evening breeze. The anger she'd carried for months still burned, but beneath it, something else stirred. Her mother's voice remembered. We heal because we can, not because they deserve it. I'll think about it, she said finally. But on my terms. No more midnight visits begging for cures. If they want the Heartwood's magic, they come during the day, when you can't accompany me. They face me alone, and ask properly. Cassius smiled. That seems fair. They walked back toward Hollow House, no longer just underground chambers, but something more. Over 6 months, they'd transformed the space. Tapestries cleaned and rehung, furniture restored, and most importantly, windows? Cassius had hired human craftsmen carefully vetted, well paid to cut shafts through the stone, allowing moonlight to fill the halls. It still wasn't a conventional home, but it was theirs. Inside, Alara found a package waiting on the table, a letter sealed with the nightshade crest. She writes often, Cassius noted. 3 times this month alone. Alara broke the seal, scanned the elegant script. She wants to visit. Says there are other sites where old magic is waking, and she needs guidance on how to approach them properly. Will you help her? Should I? She's part of the night courts. She could be gathering information. She voted for us, Cassius reminded her. And she's the only lord who's reached out with genuine interest rather than suspicion. Perhaps she means what she says. Alara considered. The idea of traveling beyond Thornwood both excited and terrified her. But the Heartwood's magic wasn't meant to stay isolated. Her mother had understood that magic grew stronger when shared, when connected to the wider world. I'll agree to meet her, Alara decided. But here, on our territory, let her see what we've built. Wise, Cassius moved behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. You're thinking like a lord now, careful, strategic. I learned from the best. She leaned back into his chest, felt the coolness of him against her warmth. Over 6 months, she'd grown accustomed to the temperature difference. The stillness when dawn came, the way he moved through the world differently than any living thing. But she'd also learned the depths beneath his cold exterior. The dry humor that emerged after centuries of disuse. The fierce protectiveness that extended beyond her now to the forest itself. The tenderness he showed when he thought she wasn't watching, mending books she loved to read. Leaving flowers from the heartwood beside her morning tea, holding her through nightmares about fire and accusations. I spoke with the Silver Vesper envoy today, Cassius said quietly. Marcus has formally withdrawn his objections to our alliance. He's asked for a trade agreement from Thornwood in exchange for resources we need. Can we trust him? No, but we can use him. Cassius's tone was pragmatic. Hollow House needs allies, even uncomfortable ones. And trade means communication. Communication means we're not isolated anymore. Alara turned in his arms. You're rebuilding. Exactly what the exile forbade. The exile is modified now. We have 50 years to prove the alliance works. His hand cupped her face. And I intend to use every moment. I've been alone too long, Alara. I want more than survival. I want, he paused, searching for words. A home, she finished softly. A purpose. A future that's more than just enduring until something ends. You, yes. The admission was raw. Is that foolish? To want that after 3 centuries of nothing? It's human. She smiled. Which, I suppose, is the point. I make you remember what it was like to be human. To hope and dream and build something that matters. And what do I give you? Alara thought carefully. Safety, knowledge, a place where my strangeness isn't something to fear, but to celebrate. You see the magic in me, and want to help it grow, not burn it away. She pressed her forehead to his. You give me permission to be powerful. That's more valuable than you know. They stood like that for a long moment, breathing together, the bond humming between them with comfortable familiarity. 6 months had deepened it beyond the initial blood magic into something more profound. They could sense each other's location anywhere in Thornwood, feel strong emotions across distances, communicate wordlessly when needed. But more than that, they'd learned to simply be together, to exist in comfortable silence, to argue about philosophy and politics, to work side by side, restoring what had been broken. I love you, Cassius said suddenly. I know I've said it before, but I need you to understand this isn't the bond talking. It's choice. Every night, I choose you. Choose this. Choose us. Alara's throat tightened. I love you too, even knowing what it means. What does it mean? That I'll age and you won't. That I'll die eventually, and you'll endure. She swallowed hard. That our time is limited, no matter how we try to stretch it, unless you choose differently. His voice was careful. The offer stands, Alara. If you want immortality, I can give it to you. Not now, but when you're ready. If you're ever ready. They'd discussed this before. The possibility of turning her, making her vampire, binding them for centuries instead of decades. The idea terrified and tempted her in equal measure. Ask me again in 49 years, she said. When the court review approaches, I'll give you my answer then. That's a long time to wait. You're good at waiting. She kissed him softly. And I need to live as human first. Experience what I'm choosing to leave behind, if I choose it. You understand that, don't you? I do. He kissed her back deeper. I just want every moment we have, however we have them. Then let's not waste tonight. Alara pulled him toward their chambers. We have visiting lords to prepare for, trade agreements to review, and a forest that won't heal itself. But right now, I want you. Just you. Cassius smiled, genuine, warm, alive in ways he hadn't been in centuries. As my lady commands, they disappeared into the depths of Hollow House, where candlelight danced on restored stone, and silver flowers bloomed in impossible corners. Where a vampire lord and his mortal witch built something that defied every law and expectation, where loneliness finally, blessedly, ended, and in the heartwood chamber far below, the ancient tree pulsed with approval, its roots spreading deeper, its magic growing stronger. The old power had found its guardians, and this time, it would not let them go.